Hello, I'm Robert and welcome to my channel, where I discuss everything automated algorithmic trading, or simply algo trading. Today is a big day for me. I spent 4 years ranting about a particular problem that exists within the cryptocurrency industry, something that I find absolutely astonishing and disgusting. And that is, most cryptocurrency exchanges don't provide a meaningful way to test your strategies without using real money. In fact, the ones that provide test nets are often incomplete or don't even provide correct information when you test the API. It is a travesty, being that we are 15 years into the cryptocurrency revolution, and yet such tools don't exist. So after 4 years of ranting about this, and 2 years of actually researching and learning all of the steps necessary, today I get to introduce my solution, Jackrabbit Mimic. It is built into Jackrabbit Relay, which means that instead of paying a third-party service $100 a month for the privilege to paper trade or demo account trade, you can now do so from the comfort of your own VPS with Jackrabbit Relay. We are going to go through the setup process and actually demonstrate many of the functionalities of Mimic. Now, before we get into too much detail, let me make clear that this is an open alpha. It is still very much under testing and scrutiny to make sure everything is working properly. The premise behind Mimic is very simple. If you can't make money with it, then the likelihood of you making money in a real market is extremely slim. As you can see on the screen, this is the wiki. You have to have Jackrabbit Relay installed. Please be sure to follow those videos appropriately for its installation if you have not done so. Now, looking at the Mimic wiki page, back up all of your system before trying to activate Mimic. Take this precaution just in case. Even though I am running this thing aggressively and heavily, beating it into the ground, don't take shortcuts on protecting your existing system. It is very simple to install, and we are going to go through it in the VPS. But basically, you have the context and the information necessary for reading and actually going through it step by step, including all of the things necessary to make the process work. So, visit the website, read it, back up your content, and then practice with a legitimate trading paradigm designed to mimic the market. So let's get into the VPS and actually make this thing happen. Now that we are in the VPS, you need to be in your home GitHub Jackrabbit Relay folder. It is important, as I said, that you have Relay already installed before you try to configure Mimic. So let's actually go through the process now of getting the latest updates. You must make sure you have the latest version. So we're going to let this run through, and you're going to see a lot of weird stuff, including one package that is behaving strangely. You don't need to worry about it because everything does work the way it's supposed to, as I will demonstrate. This will take a few minutes. I'm not going to cut away or pause it because I think it's important to actually see the process. This is the error I was talking about from some kind of a weird situation. It's not actively used in Mimic, but rather a support function deeper down the lines that doesn't affect any Jackrabbit product. Remember what I said about needing a VPS solely for relay. I do not recommend sharing a VPS with any other functions you may be using. And as you can see, now we're going through the setup process and the continuation of various mappings that connect TradingView to Relay for being able to process your orders easily. Now there are some gimmicks and situations there where TradingView has changed some of its mappings, and I am trying to sort those out. But for the most part, as you can see, everything is up and running. But as a precaution, run the install again with the argument of no pull. This just double checks that everything is updated properly. And next, you want to update all of your placed orders for exchanges you use. And then you list out the exchange names, and it will go through the process of creating all of those functionalities. Now we get into the actual components of Mimic itself. Now we are going to go through the process of setting up all the public access points that Mimic can use. You don't need to necessarily do this, but it's a good idea just because it helps you actually go through and pick different exchanges that you can test without actually having to be a member of those exchanges. Now this uses a 4-point process that makes sure that the public data is available to you, including the market, the ticker, the order book, and the OHLCV data. So we go to the extras, and if you press tab, you'll get two commands. The first one we're going to use is the public data information. This will build configuration files with public references that will give us a list of exchanges we can use in our testing. That is, we can use their market data, we can examine their market data, so forth. And as you can see, you have to give it a port. Take the time to make sure your port information is correct. It is absolutely critical that you take this step, because if you give it the wrong port, it is a pain in the hiney to go through 100+ exchanges changing this information by hand. So we'll take the time to make sure this part is correct now. And then it will go through, and now it will go through every exchange it can access and try to determine whether or not you are legally able to access it from your jurisdiction. Not all jurisdictions are allowed access to every exchange. So this system specifically checks what you are allowed to use from your jurisdiction. Now this list will be quite lengthy if this is the first time you have run it. And you can run it multiple times, like once a month, to see if there are any new listings that you can use. So as we can see, it is going through now and searching various numbers of exchanges that are available for me to use. This will take a few minutes. All of these exchanges can be used with Mimic. That is, you can list their markets, you can list their order book data, you can list their ticker data, so forth. And this is all for free. You don't need to pay $100 a month to be able to use this system. Being open source, you can verify that the information is in fact completely risk-free. Now, the one thing I do want to note while this is continuing is that you can use your regularly linked API secret accounts. For example, if you have an account with Kraken or Binance that you use on a regular basis, you can use that as well with Mimic. Mimic will not place real trades. It keeps track of its own simulated trades completely independent of the exchange. As we see, it's continuing to search one by one for every single exchange that you are allowed to access. At this moment, there are roughly 120 or 130 exchanges that get searched. So it's quite a lengthy list of what is available to you. Now that we are completely finished searching all of the exchanges we are allowed to publicly access, now we need to build the list for Mimic to access. And that's not that different than the previous command. And now this will create a Mimic config file for if you use it for the first time. And if you already have one, it will update your existing file for any exchanges that it will process with the public information. So it is now searching all of the newly created config files that you just made for the public references that were created, and then adding them to the Mimic config file if they don't already exist. These commands do not add duplicates, so you don't have to worry about running them more than once. Now, your first time running this will be quite lengthy, comparatively speaking, as it goes through the same list the previous program went through, looking for all of the new public references that it may not already have cataloged. Now that we have all of the cryptocurrency exchanges with a public API, fully cataloged with CFG files, and we have all of those files listed in the Mimic CFG file, let's actually take a look at what's been done. I am in my Jackrabbit Relay working folder, so let's take a look at one of these newly created files. And as you can see, it is the public reference, as we can see from the secret being public and the API being public. This is how Jackrabbit Relay knows it's using the public reference, because these exist strictly for that purpose. Now, in all cases, public API accounts always have the account name public. This is done deliberately to make it easy to know and access the data that you are working with. And if we scroll to the right, we see why the port number was so important. The webhook is the feedback loop that which Relay uses to communicate with its own internal structures. And you have to have that port number for it to communicate as it's processing data. So all of the functionality of the cryptocurrency exchanges with public APIs have now been recorded. And you can easily see the difference in size from those that I might have actual real data in versus the ones that were generated by the script. And as you can see, there are a lot of public APIs available. It's critical that you take advantage of these tools because it gives you the opportunity to really go out of your way to test a wide variety of markets, different types of volume, liquidity, jurisdictions legally. So let's get down to the Mimic config file that was created specifically for us to work with. And you'll see here is the basic print. Now, as I said, you can use an existing account that you have an API and a secret with. For example, I have Kraken. So what I've done is I named the account Kraken so that my exchange will be Mimic, my account will be Kraken. The data exchange. This is the exchange file that exists within the system. For example, my Kraken config file. I am using my Kraken main account that has my API and my secret linked to my actual real account. Remember that under no circumstances will real money be used. This is just to gain the advantage of the rate limits and any special perks I might have with the account itself that may not be publicly available. And the fee. Something to be aware of is that you can tell it exactly what the fee is that you want to work with. And of course, you have the initial balance of the account. You can define how much actual balance you want in the account so that when it sets up the simulated wallet, every quote currency will be given this balance. And finally, yet again, the webhook that you need for connecting back and forth to Mimic. Be sure you check your port before you press the enter key. You don't want to have to go through all of these and change it for a simple mistake. And now, these are the ones I put in manually. Now let's get to the public accounts, the ones I added through the script. And again, you'll see some of the basic things, such as mimic, the name of the exchange, and then deliberately putting the word public. For example, KuCoin public. You don't have to do this. The script does this to make it easy. So this will use the KuCoin account public reference. As you can see from the data exchange and the data account, using that public reference to make sure it easily translates to the public API. If you have a real account with a real API and secret, you can use it to get the lower rate limits. Because if you use the public API, your rate limit will automatically default to 1000 milliseconds. Whereas if you have a legitimate account with an API and a secret, you could probably get your rate limit down to 100 or 200 milliseconds, which would be closer to what you would really expect in a live trading market. So there you have it. This is literally the setup, and you can see that all of these exchanges exist for you to test and try and collect information on. And all of Jackrabbit Relay's information works well with this content. So now let's run some tests from your working relay folder, home/Jackrabbit Relay 2. Let's actually see how Mimic works. Let's look at the Mimic Kraken account that I just showed. And you will actually see the balances of the account that I currently have. You see all of the quote currencies with the funding that I set up. You can see where I've already been using it for several different transactions. And yes, Mimic does and is capable of simulating dust. And it does it infuriatingly well. So all of the aspects of a real trading environment, including slippage and so forth, are easily replicated with this framework. If you watched my video previously where I talked about how wallets work, you'll see where I demonstrated where a winning trade turned out to be a losing trade because of slippage, where Mimic was able to actually show that process. And this works all the way through and through with every single Mimic account. For example, we are going to use the Fimix reference public account that I have set up in Mimic, where I have been using to test other assets. Now you'll notice the difference right away in the amount of time it takes for this command to give me information versus the first command. The Kraken account has a rate limit of 200 milliseconds. That has a real API and secret attached to it. The Fimix account is strictly using the public data, so I have a rate limit of 1000 milliseconds per API call. So you can see the significant differences that exist between both functionalities. And all of the relay functions that you are used to, whether it be balances or list markets, work across the board by providing Mimic as the exchange. And that is the important part. Mimic becomes your exchange. Not Kraken, not Fimix, or whatever your real exchange is. Mimic. And what that does is that gives you certain files on your local drive that you can expect and watch and see in terms of how your system builds. Now let's take a look at the actual files that the system creates. Let's start with the logs. As you can see, I'm using Oliver Twist on this, my Kraken account, and my CVC pair that I'm trading. And you can see my simulated trades. And that both cases, for the two trades I have, I took a profit and what my simulated profits would have been. Now, it is important to make sure I get this point across. The data used for these trades are the actual market data that Kraken has. Mimic pulls live data off of Kraken to process these trades in a simulated way, which means the ending ticker is actually what the market is. The beginning ticker according to the market, the ending ticker according to the market. It pulls live market data to create the simulated real-world effect of live trading. So your results can be tested, analyzed, proofed, and built upon in a meaningful way. For example, here is XRP, and again, meaningful real-world data you can use to build a real trading system that does have the potential to make real money. And you can see that this one has done quite a few trades. But it's allowed me to also do some very stupid stuff. For example, for this particular test, I am buying once a minute. No matter what, I'm simply buying 1 XRP a minute. And this is the results of that 1 XRP a minute. This lets you try different techniques safely. You can now test real crypto markets without risking real money, without having to pay $100 a month to figure out if you're even going to be able to make money in the market. You have this on your VPS, day after day after day, running, testing, simulating for you. You don't have to worry about being limited by the number of pairs you've traded. You don't have to worry about the number of trades you take. It will run whatever your VPS can manage. If your VPS can handle 100 pairs a minute, you can trade 100 pairs a minute. This isn't the kind of nonsense that you have to worry about that's going to give up or give out or tell you you've exhausted your trial period. There's no trial period here. You install it, you test, you collect, you do your research, you get real meaningful data. And as you can see, here is how it shows up. Now let's look at how the actual process really functions, where you can actually see the history that the bot has done, or I should say that the program has done. You can see your wallet, so forth. Let's start with the Kraken wallet. Remember, there's no APIs here, no games, no gimmicks. Here's the actual wallet structure. Simple. If the account has been liquidated, it will be disabled. It tracks the fees of all of your simulated transactions, and then each of the wallets as you have them and use them. Mimic does a good job in actually simulating what your cryptocurrency wallets are going to look like. Now, the purpose of this is not to emulate or mimic Kraken itself, even though it will use Kraken's live data to emulate your actual trading. Mimic is designed to emulate the effect of trading in a live market, the chaos and unpredictability of live trading, to see how your budgets, your balances are going to be affected and reflected by the actions of the market on a daily basis. And as you can see, CVC, the current amount of dust, ADA, the current amount of dust, and Algo, the current amount of dust. The three assets I am testing right now in my Mimic Kraken account. Now let's go to the actual history, where I show exactly what has been done. When it happened, the date and the time, the simulated ID, the action, the asset, the base side wallet. In this case, my asset is CVC USD. So the base side wallet is CVC. The quote side wallet or USD. The amount that I purchased 55.10 of CVC. The actual price that I paid. Not the price that TradingView said, not the price I wanted, but the price the exchange gave when the order took place. And finally, how much did I pay as a fee for this transaction? This is done for every single transaction this wallet takes, or this account takes. So you can see clearly and historically exactly what you are doing, how you are doing it, and why you are doing it. You are able to test and hone your strategy appropriately to the functionality of what you wanted to achieve safely and realistically, with a very reasonable level of accuracy of what you can expect when you deploy this in a live market. And it does record all of those transactions, buys and sells. For example, we see the last line is a sell. And we see ADA 0.01 dust, the USDT wallet, the amount that I am removing from the wallet. That is, I'm removing 11.11 ADA. The price that I received from the exchange, and then the fee that I paid. Now, the thing about this, as I demonstrated in my last video, I wanted 12 ADA, but because of the fee, I got 11.11 ADA. That is important to understand. This does in fact emulate the fact that your orders are not going to be perfect. You are going to get some of that random chaos added into the process, just as you would from a real market. And in fact, you can see and watch trade by trade through the history as the market accumulates. That is, in this case, you can see the ADA wallet growing and the USDT wallet shrinking. And then you see the sell. You see exactly what is being sold, how much it's being sold, and you begin to see the relationship that dust has in your account. For example, right here I have 66.37, but here I'm only selling 66.30. So between dust and fees, you get to see exactly the relationship that your wallet goes through. So now let's go look at the second wallet, my Mimic wallet. Same thing that you will see here. You see the fees that I actually paid thus far in running this wallet. You see the various currencies and the values that I currently have. Short, sweet, and simple. Now let's look at the history of the Mimic's public account. Remember, this is a 1000 millisecond rate limited account. Therefore, you are going to see the impact and effect of the rate limit, as well as other factors. Now, the rate limit is automatically going to cause lag and slippage in the values. So again, giving you a real-world impact of just what things can do or how they can go wrong in your real trading. Okay, now that we are back into the system, let's go look at XRP. This is the test that I am actually buying once a minute no matter what. So once a minute trade. Not the best strategy, but that's the whole point of this process. I can do different things for different reasons and actually see the impact. See how it actually works. Build and test a theory of aggregation or accumulation or stop losses and not have to worry about risking one single penny. So as you can see exactly the amount I am getting, the prices I am paying, how the USDT wallet is decrementing in value with each transaction, and how my XRP wallet is incrementing in value with each transaction. And then we see here the sell, and you get to see exactly how things progress. And you see how the values interconnect. Every single exchange that you use Mimic with will give you this information with every single trade, every single potential. And that is really the blueprint or the crux of the system that gives you a meaningful correlation and relationship. So that as you progress and you see how things are actually done, you get the idea of what happens throughout your trading process, including, let's get to this one, an experiment that I'm trying, and you can see exactly, for example, this particular one, the price was $62, I sold 3, and I paid $1.39 in fees on this one single transaction. So you get a good and clear consensus of your trading. Now let's get to the actual final details of setting this up. We are looking at the trading view chart I talked about a couple of videos ago, using my moving average technique, both with the DCA module and with Oliver Twist. And you can see on the alerts here where I'm using Mimic to run a series of tests. The actual payload isn't that different than what you're used to. In fact, the only difference is just the exchange. Now, for the purposes of this chart and referencing some of the questions I had in the support server, I'm going to demonstrate the payload that uses the DSR, or the duplicate signal remover. It's what makes sure that you don't get ghost or duplicate entries on your trading. And here is that alert message. Now, I've redacted the identity, which of course you have to have. Yes, even with Mimic, you have to have the identity. It is important that all functionalities stay exact and identical to everything that Relay normally enforces. So here is the standard payload message you will find in the wiki orders section. The recipe, again, nothing but a mental comment for me. In this case, I am buying this entry, and I'm using the DSR and Mimic. Now, for the DSR, it's using the Kraken exchange. I deliberately named it that way to keep it easy. And the Mimic exchange is using the Kraken account. Again, keeping those references lined up 1 for 1, 2 for 2. The market I am trading is spot. I am purchasing $7 worth of product. That doesn't mean I'm going to get $7. By the time you factor in order book supply and demand, and you factor in the fees, it will actually be less than $7 that I receive in my wallet. I am remapping the symbol based upon TradingView's functions. This particular symbol remaps easily, so it works reasonably well. Some symbols do not remap easily, and you have to just put the symbol name here. And then, of course, all of TradingView's ticker, all of their macros that get filled in at the time of the alert that help the DSR keep track of everything. Now, specific to Mimic, unless you want your order to be able to flip from long to short or vice versa, you need to explicitly use the reduce only function. Mimic is capable of demonstrating shorting. It is capable of flipping the account from positive to negative. But the one thing that must be emphasized, if the quote side currency goes below 0, Mimic will liquidate the account. That's what that enabled section is for. So if your quote side currency drops below 0, Mimic turns off the account so it can't take any further trading until you manually fix it. This way it preserves its history so you can see how it really looks. Now we are looking at an order that uses Oliver Twist. Again, you can see the order is pretty much identical to what you're used to in a standard Jackrabbit relay order, with the only difference being Mimic is your exchange. All of the standard functions that you are used to are there exactly as you would if you were using Binance, Kraken, Bybit. It doesn't matter. Very little actually changes between a real exchange and Mimic. So as you progress in your testing, you can see how easy it is to take a pair. In this case, where I'm testing Kraken, all I have to do when I want to move to a live trading situation is change my exchange to Kraken, change my account to main, and the rest of my order is actually fine. No changes needed. I can then begin trading real money once I know I have a working and proven system. That is the whole premise and point of what makes Mimic stand out. So as you progress in your trading, you're not just taking simulated trades from a historical perspective. You're actually watching how your strategy is going to perform in a live market with live market data. And you will get a real world consensus of whether or not your trading approach is viable and you are going to be profitable in the long term. So now that we've gone through the entire process of setting Mimic up and actually using it, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Let me know. Remember, you don't need to pay $100 a month now to be able to test your strategies. Mimic is open source. You can verify your data with an open source product. You can do so safely on your own VPS. You're not limited by the number of pairs you can trade. You're not limited by how many trades per day you can take. You can take as much as your exchange allows. So let me know. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts. If you have any questions, ask them. Please help me spread the word about this new innovation and getting this out and tested and built upon more. Give this video a thumbs up. Give it a like. Share it with people you know. Thank you for watching.